If one of the girls liked a guy, they had a TVI on them. Supposedly, TV stood for twat vibe. So, hope that clears everything up.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is in whatever part of the world you're currently in. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy, that's John, and it's time to get down to business here. We've got a track to check out, one that John is going to be offering up for me to go off and give a listen, and I will come back and we will discuss further. Let's get this party started, John. What are we scooping out today?
Yeah, the band is the Stooges.
Ah, okay. All right. I'm familiar with them. What is the track by them?
The track is TVI.
TVI. Okay. I think this is one that I know. Let me go off, give this thing my TV ear, and I will come back and let you know what I've made of it. Okay, I'm setting records here for how soon into a song I can hit pause, but Iggy just roaring I thought it was either loud, like literally, and you know, also as a descriptor of his screaming loudly. I think it was either loud or Lord, something like that. But then that guitar kicks in, and I swear to God, just the tone of it reminded me so much of the way Murillo's guitar sounds in a few of their songs, but instantly "Sleep Now in the Fire" came to mind when I heard that. Dan, 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 dan. So, I mean, I know they're probably very different, and I will discover that upon getting outside of the 6 second mark as it kind of develops. But man, instantly, I just had this visceral reaction to like I was listening to Tom Morello's tone on that song in particular. Really interesting, but and I don't ever mind being reminded of Tom Morello's guitar. So there is that. I just didn't think I was going to get it on a Stooges song, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, let's check this thing out. Bass is nice. Oh, that bass. Nice drum rolls. This is interesting because there's really nothing innovative in this with a blueprint of verse chorus. They're not breaking the mold here. But what it lacks in this sort of like in innovative song structuring, it makes up for with this awesome energy, attitude, and this grit um that bands like Iggy Pop and the Stooges they bring, and they're in a way kind of pioneers in that regard. So again, nothing innovative about their blueprint, but perhaps just their approach and their attitude. There is some sort of a groundbreaking sound in that. And I really dig it. You know what I mean? It's just got so much personality to it and edge. Uh that makes up for the fact that yes, I've heard a trillion songs that go verse chorus, and maybe you'll do something different in a moment. But to this point, it's a road that I've been down plenty of times. But it's the scenery along the road that sets it apart. If that metaphor checks out and makes sense, yeah, this is really really cool. I'm digging this. Nice drum roll. That bass. Chugging, chugging, chugging. It's great. What the hell is he saying? Yeah. I like this. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I liked that. I like that a lot. Um, yeah, there were no shoes being gazed at, there was no experimentation on rock, um, no spaces explored. This is just raw, and I love that. I love all those things I said it wasn't, but that doesn't mean that I need all of those things every time I turn on a song. I like variation in my art. And this was definitely like this just more attitudinal and more cutting. Uh and as I mentioned, raw I think is a great descriptor of this. Iggy was going nuts with all of his hoops and hollerins and all that stuff. And I think there towards the end, like the last verse I think was just a reprisal of the previous one. Now, oftentimes, usually, which I find curious, I don't think we've ever really talked about at length or maybe even at all, but like the idea that like in punk and oftentimes in grunge, there are these instances where a verse there will be a reprisal of a previously, you know, played verse and sung verse. Cobain would do it a lot where he would tap into he would like sort of bookend. He would repeat the first verse at the end as the final verse of the song. And while this isn't that, because I think it's just a mirror image of the previous verse, not the first verse, it's just an interesting thing. And I wonder like when that became popular or who started doing that and why that was. I mean, I guess like at face value, you could be like, well, that's lazy. Why not just write some more words, especially in verses that have such scant lyrics anyway, as the verses do in this song. But it is interesting to me, and I don't, I don't dislike it. I don't, favor it. I just wonder why that happens. But anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. Just curious. I really love this song. Awesome energy. That the bass, the drums are really great in this. Obviously, the guitar, almost from the moment go, kind of captured my attention. Yeah, everything about this was really, really cool. Lots of energy. I don't know what the fuck a TVI is, so John's gonna have to help me out with that. Oftentimes with these songs, I'll catch a fair amount of the lyrics, but um, and sometimes I know what they're alluding to beyond just the words themselves, like what the meaning therein is. But with this, I don't really know. It's just like saying, "Hey, do you see this person? Yeah, they're on their back." Or "Do you see this cat? Blah 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 blah." And then she's got a TVI on me. I don't know what TVI means. But hopefully John can help with that, and we can perhaps continue to bond over how cool this fucking song is and how edgy and gritty it is. I'd be interested to hear what he has to say on the matter, and the only way to do that is to get back and chat it up with him.
Douglas Fairbanks Jr. He's back. So you've had to listen to TVI by the Stooges. What do you reckon?
Oh wow. Reckon a lot. The track it begins with Iggy roaring what sounds like is the word Lord. Um, and then comes in this wicked electric guitar, and I swear, for a fleeting moment, the tone of it sounded almost exactly like the tone of really obscure, but not that they aren't, but just the connection is between these two bands. But it sounded a lot like Tom Morello's guitar riff in Rage Against the Machine song "Sleep Now in the Fire." And the way it comes in, it sounded just like the way this came in. Now it's different notes and stuff, but just the tone and the sound of the guitar hit me in the same exact way. It has this the same sharp kind of biting tone to it. And I wasn't expecting to have that kind of epiphany or moment when it started, but here we are. There were a couple of hoots and whoops from Iggy, and then he growls some other two-word phrase that I don't really make out. And the song kicks off. That happens on more than one occasion throughout this tune. We've got banging drums and this thumping bass work and some grinding distorted guitar all moving together with this rollicking pace. And then he asks if we've seen that cat. And then another line follows that which I don't quite catch. I believe this repeats itself though before the chorus kicks off, and he talks about how there is this she who's got a TVI on him, and he repeats that bit as well. No idea what TVI means. Um, we enter the
Well,
next verse. We enter the next verse, and now he wants to know if we see that cat down on her back. And again, he repeats himself. And after the second time, we get this killer drum roll that takes us back into the chorus. Obviously, nothing revolutionary in the blueprint, like I mentioned before in a previous song, where we get like it's verse, chorus here, and but what it lacks in innovative song structuring, it makes up for in energy and attitude and grit, which it has in spades, and I'm loving the sound and the attitude that the song has. We get another verse and the chorus and chorus, and in this chorus is punctuated with this like, "Whoa, yeah," I think I catch, and another one of these tight drum rolls. And rather than going back into the verse, the guitar starts angrily crunching away at this awesome lead work, bending and hammering on notes with a furious intent as Iggy hoops and hollers all over the place. Just fun in and of itself. Um, This gives way to this very chugging motif around the 235 mark, and we get all kinds of sounds from Iggy, like hissing and screaming and gurgling into the mic. At the 310 mark, he starts shouting this repeated bit over the chugging, but I can't quite make out what he's saying. It's two syllables, maybe even two words. But at first, it sounded like he was shouting, "Brother!" And then it sounded like I heard "ride out." And I'm fairly certain neither of those are the correct words or word used, but that's what I thought I heard. He then delivers this one last time before the music cuts out for a couple of seconds. I think it's around like the 322 to the 325 marker. Then enter the guitar motif that's sort of the same way it hit in the very beginning when it first introduced itself. The drums hammer away as Iggy reprises the previous verse, and by hammer away, it's just this punch, and I love that. I love it. It's just this different kind of sound to the rhythm to this point in the song. And I have to admit, something I've always found curious, because as I mentioned, this is sort of a reprisal of the like lyrically of the last verse that he just delivered, and there's something about punk and grunge where they both do this. There's this construct where the final verse of a song mirrors or reprises a previously used verse from the same song. Now, oftentimes it's usually the first verse that they add again at the end and they reprise at the end. Now, I know this is different because it's the if this is the fourth, it was the third that they're reprising. But Cobain would often do this, where he would sing the last verse of a song would just be a repeat of the first verse. And I don't know why this happens, and I don't have any issue with it. Like I don't disregard it. I don't love it. I just wonder where this mechanism occurred or this idea blossomed from. But it is oftentimes in punk and or grunge music, this sort of like punk adjacent sound that you get that. And it was just curious to me, and I just don't know how it became popularized, but clearly it has. And I don't think these guys are stealing off anybody. This is maybe one of the earlier versions of it in punk music, but it is something that stood out to me and made me have this moment where I thought about music in general and how it has these reprisals of previously featured verses. We get another treatment of the chorus, and then it comes to an end, as does the song, but not before some funny little dirty noodling on the guitar. So yeah, I really enjoyed the shit out of this track. There's nothing fancy. No shoes were gazed upon, and no space was explored, nor was rock experimented with. And you know what? That's perfectly fine because this song had raw fucking energy, and it just couldn't be stopped. And you can only hope to contain it. Killer track. But I'm going to need you to throw me a little bit more information about this evocative name and the meaning thereof. So please, John, tell me what you know.
Okay, interesting. Some points there. I'll see if I can just pick up on them now before I forget. Um, the old third verse, same as the first, as Violent Femmes would sing. I think that dates back. I've never associated it with punk and grunge. Now you say it, probably they're pretty obvious, but I always thought it was associated with the oral tradition of passing on songs that they would repeat the beginning, so it sticks in people's heads, minds more.
Interesting.
That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just a technique which then other people would have picked up. I'm sure probably if you go back to 60s pop songs, they probably do that as well. I'm sure they do. I couldn't name you one straight off the top of my head, but just a feeling.
No, it's probably fair. It's probably my bias coming in where I've listened to far more punk,
Yeah, of course.
adjacent and grunge stuff where they use it as opposed to 60s pop. But you're probably right. It's probably used in other genres of music, but it is something that I've always found curious, and it stood out to me as I had this epiphany as I was listening to this song.
I guess you notice it more in song and music that you value more. You know,
Yeah, probably.
yeah. Whereas your Belgium jazz, you probably haven't noticed it so much. Anyway, yeah, and in terms of you're saying about nothing outstanding and the strong structure, whatever, that's true. But the actual way they did this was real blazing of the trails, if not the saddles. And anyway, right, so let's get into it. The Stooges, there's a lot. We'll do some more Stooges stuff, so I won't go through the whole shebang because there's a lot. Just about Mr. Pop himself. The Stooges, originally billed as the Psychedelic Stooges and also known as Iggy and the Stooges, they were an American band formed in Ann Arbor, Michigan in 1967, and they're known as proto-punk, garage rock, and hard rock. Personnel being Iggy Pop, who was born James Newell Osterberg Jr., vocals and sometime guitarist. Ron Ashton, guitar, Dave Alexander, bass, and Scott Ashton, drums. Osterberg played drums in several Ann Arbor area bands as a teenager, including the Iguanas, and then later the Prime Movers. The Prime Movers nicknamed Osterberg Iggy in reference to his earlier band, the Iguanas. That's where he got the Iggy from.
Interesting.
Apparently, also later on he resembles someone, and so they added the word pop to the end of it. I don't know. Osterberg was first inspired to form the Stooges after meeting blues drummer Sam Lay during a visit to Chicago. Upon returning to Detroit, Osterberg sought to create a new form of blues music that was not a derivative of historical precedents, with influence from garage rock bands like the Sonics and the Kinks. Iggy Pop attributes two key motivating influences to moving the band forward. The first being seeing the Doors perform at a homecoming dance for the University of Michigan. The second was seeing an all-girls rock band from Princeton, New Jersey called Untouchable perform in the summer of '67. In a 1995 interview with Bust magazine, he says, "I had the Stooges and we did not have the balls to go out and do it. There were two things that made us do it. One was seeing that show, The Doors. We saw that show and I just thought, wow, this is so brazen. There's no excuse for us not to do it anymore." And the other thing was we went to New York. We'd gone to New York a couple of months before that just to check out the scene, and we'd never been to a place like New York. We went down around 8th Street there where all the tourists hang out, and we met these girls from New Jersey, from Princeton. They had a band called The Untouchable. And we are like, "Oh, you got a band? Sure, ha ha." And they said, "Well, come to our house and see us play." And we didn't have anywhere to crash, and they played for us. They completely rocked, and we were really ashamed.
Good.
So the group certainly sound different from their later music, wrote critic Edwin Ponce. He says the Stooges' early musical experiments were more avant-garde than punk rock, with pop incorporating such household objects as a vacuum cleaner and a blender into an intense wall of feedback that one observer described as sounding like an airplane was landing in the room. Homemade instruments were also incorporated to flesh out the overall sound. The gymmophone involved pushing feedback through a funnel device, which is raised and lowered to achieve the best effect. There was also a cheap Hawaiian guitar, which Pop and guitarist Ron Ashton were taking turns plucking to produce a simulated sitar drone, while drummer Scott Ashton pounded away at a set of oil drums with a ball hammer. It sounds very Velvet Underground, sort of white light, white heat, sort of a era.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'd have paid to watch that. So they gained a reputation for their sort of wild, primitive live performances. Iggy was known for his outrageous on-stage behavior, smearing his chest with hamburger meat and peanut butter, cutting himself with shards of glass and flashing his cock and balls at the audience. He's also credited with sometimes with the invention or popularization of stage diving.
Oh.
In '69, the band released their self-titled debut album. Sales were low, and it was not well received by the critics at the time. In 1970, their second album, Funhouse, was released, and it featured the addition of saxophonist Steve Mackay. Again, poorly received. and commercially unsuccessful. The band, along with producer Don Gallucci, who incidentally played the organ on the Kingsmen's Louie Louie, they tried to emulate the chaos of the band playing live. So they stripped out all the studio, all the baffles and everything, and Pop sort of prowled around the studio like he was on stage. He said that the iconic blues singer Howlin' Wolf, in quotes, was really pertinent for me and Funhouse. That stuff is wolfy, at least as I could do it. The sessions were bridged with parties at the wild and seedy Tropicana Motel, and the surrounding mania seeped into the tracks. You can imagine. The music press at the time called it hard rock, avant-garde rock, and someone said it was trying to make art about chaos. Rolling Stone found Funhouse to be much more sophisticated than the Stooges' debut album, writing they sounded so exquisitely horrible and down and out. They're the ultimate psychedelic rock band in 1970. Melody Maker was unimpressed, however, calling it the worst record of the year and a muddy load of sluggish and unimaginative rubbish, heavily disguised by electricity and called American rock. So, not a fan.
Doesn't sound like it.
Retrospective reviews. AllMusic hailed Funhouse as the ideal document of the Stooges at their raw, sweaty, howling peak. Entertainment Weekly wrote that the radical album sounded primal, unpredictable, and dangerous. Pitchfork recommended it to any rock fan with a sense of history and asserted that, along with the Stooges' debut, Funhouse is one of the most important predecessors to the punk rock movement. According to Cleveland.com, quotes, what was once dismissed as something too raw and primal now sits as a work of unparalleled hard rock genius. In 2020, Rolling Stone ranked Funhouse at number 94, their list of 500 greatest albums of all time. Melody Maker said that it is, quotes, no contest, the greatest rock and roll album of all time.
Wow.
Joey Ramone, Marky Smith, Jack White, Nick Cave, Michael Gira, Henry Rollins, and Steve Albini are among the artists who cited Funhouse as a favourite album. The greatest rock and roll album ever made, if to use White. It's a brilliant record. I don't think it'll ever be topped.
Wow.
And it features in the book 1,001 albums you must hear before you die. There's their
shit.
So there it is. There's a great write-up and a fantastic picture of Mr. Osterberg there doing this stuff. His quote here from 1996 says, when I made Funhouse back in 1970, nobody wanted to interview me. It was wonderful. This side, you've got James Taylor and Paul McCartney. Very different beasts. This side, you've got George Harrison, All Things Was Past, that we talked about. Bridge Over Troubled Water. T for the Tillerman. And John Barleycorn, Must Die Traffic. Really great albums. What a time to be alive. I was less than 1 year old. So, the lyrics, very quickly. Lord, as you say. It could be Lard, but I think it's Lord. See that cat? Yeah, I do mean you. See that cat? Yeah, I do mean you. She got a TVI on me. She got a TVI. She got a TVI on me. Oh, see that cat down on her back. See that cat down on her back. She got a TVI on me. She got a TVI. She got a TVI on me. Oh, see that cat? Yeah, I love her so. See that cat? Yeah, I love her so. She got a TVI on me. She got a TVI. She got a TVI on me. Oh, yeah. And then it goes into the instrumental. We get the yelps. We get the inhalations, the screams, and the coughs. And then we get him saying some words which I think are the same, very, very gently. But he definitely then screams afterwards, ram it, 4 times. Ram it, ram it. And then he says, see that cat? Yeah, I love her so. See that cat? Yeah, I love her so. She got a TVI on me. She got a TVI. She got a TVI on me. Oh. So, according to the Complete Funhouse Sessions box set, this song was originally titled See That Cat. And you can see why.
Yes.
In the book, Please Kill Me, The Uncensored Oral History of Punk by Legs McNeil, what a name, and Gillian McCain, TVI was a code that Stooges Ron and Scott Ashton's sister used with her friends to describe a guy she liked. If one of the girls liked a guy, they had a TVI on them. Supposedly, TV stood for twat vibe. So, hope that clears everything up.
Yeah, of course.
Um, right, back to the Stooges very briefly. Alexander was dismissed in 1970 after arriving at the Goose Lake International Music Festival too drunk to play. He was replaced by a succession of new bass players, and the band expanded their lineup, adding another guitar player. By this time, the Stooges, with the notable exception of Ron Ashton, had all become serious heroin users. The drugs introduced to the band by their new manager, John Adams, bless him. Their performances became even more unpredictable, and Iggy Pop often had trouble even standing up on stage due to his extreme drug use. Elektra soon eliminated the Stooges from their roster. The band had a hiatus for several months. The breakup of the Stooges was formally announced in July 1971. With the band having broken up, Pop met David Bowie in September of that year at Max's Kansas City in New York, and the pair very quickly became really good friends. The next day, on the advice of Bowie, Pop signed a recording contract with pop manager Tony DeFries. A few months later, DeFries and Pop met Clive Davis from CBS, Columbia, and they got a 2-album deal out of it. Wow. In March 72, DeFries brought Pop and Wilson to the UK. They attempted to reconstitute the Stooges with British musicians, but after finding no one suitable, they brought the Ashton brothers back into the band. This second choice decision really rankled Ron Ashton, as did he was made to change from guitar to bass. This lineup was billed as Iggy and the Stooges, and they recorded their third album, the influential Raw Power, which was released in 1973. The Stooges disbanded in 74 as a result of dwindling opportunities and compounded by Pop's ever-present heroin addiction and his really erratic behavior. The year after that, David Alexander actually died of pulmonary edema related to his alcohol-induced pancreatitis in 1975. So, yeah. So they all went their ways. The band reunited in 2003 and released new material, the album The Weirdness, in 2007. During the early hours of January the 6th, 2009, the police was summoned to Ron Ashton's home in Ann Arbor, Michigan, by his personal assistant, who had been unable to reach him for 7 days. Ashton was found dead in his bed, apparently having died of a heart attack a few days prior. Sonic Youth's album, The Eternal, is dedicated to him. He was 60 years old. The band actually thought about it, but did continue, and they released their final album, Ready to Die, in 2013. Scott Ashton, his brother, died of a heart attack in March 2014 at the age of 64. In a statement on his death, Pop said he was like my brother. Saxophonist Steve McKay died in October 2015 at the age of 66, and the band officially disbanded in June 2016. Iggy Pop, amazingly, is the last man standing of that lineup that recorded this track. Not many people have taken that bet back in 1974.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Thanks to his friend David Bowie, he got clean. And he helped, he produced his solo albums as well from that point. He managed to keep alive. And he did go on to have a pretty impressive solo career. And he has since become a cultural icon, really, and an adopted national treasure in the UK from his turn as a presenter on BBC Six Music radio station as well. So he's much loved over here. And I'm sure he still is in the States, and he gets fantastic. So he's still doing bits and pieces and reworking stuff, even at his age. And he went through that health kick phase, didn't he? He managed to get himself in great shape. And I think he's maintained it, even though his skin does look like a leather sofa nowadays because of all the abuse.
I was gonna say there's a show over here by Seth MacFarlane called American Dad, and it features a cartoon alien named Roger, and I swear to God, Iggy Pop looks like Roger nowadays. But when you consider where he could have been and where most people would have pegged him to be by this time, up to 8, I'm sure he'd take it. Also, a little bit of irony, sad irony, not that I want anyone to leave this world, especially when they're influential artists who do more good than harm. But isn't it surprising that the guy who pulled him back to life and helped give him a second lease on life would die before him in Bowie. That's kind of it's really a shame.
It is amazing, really, that Bowie. That yeah, he outlived Bowie. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really odd because at the time, actually, Bowie was completely fucked up on cocaine,
yeah,
but he had enough about him to be able to save his friend, which is on heroin, which is probably a more serious, immediate physical threat.
yeah,
Neither of them are great places to be, but yeah. So really interesting stuff. There's loads more on Iggy and loads more stories
sure,
about him and the book. But I thought this song is just I think it's awesome. This snarling energy, as you said, is just great,
yeah,
and you can see where um why it's called proto punk and where sort of people got the energy from for this. And in lots of bands, and you're right to sort of recognize some of the guitar stylings from Rage Against the Machine. You can see it. There's like 101 bands you can say that have taken elements from the Stooges
yeah,
easily. Yeah, they're another one of those really, really influential bands. So it's great to have a track of theirs on the channel.
absolutely.
I shall wrap things up. Thanks so much for listening to this, Andy.
Thank you.
Glad you enjoyed it. Folks out there, tell us what you think. If you enjoy this, please do hit the like button. Tell us what you think. Drop some comments. We'd love to hear from you. Your opinion of this track, this album, The Stooges. I think this is their best output out of the 3 standard albums. Mixing aside on the Raw Power, I just don't think it's got the same fight. But love to hear from you and what you think of it. Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. That being said, thanks again so much for watching. I will see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.